This is Keith Howie from Cops Corrections Videos. If you like my videos, please hit the red subscribe button. Today I'd like to talk about something which affects all of us in law enforcement. Whether you drive a squad car or whether you stand on a cell block, it affects all of us, and that is management. And what is wrong with management? Now we all know there's different levels of management. There's upper management, wardens, police chiefs, deputy wardens, security directors. There's middle management, lieutenants, captains, and in some states, sergeants. But they are management. Now, what's the problem with management? Part of the problem with management is the application of the Peter Principle, that too many people promote to their level of incompetence. We've all seen that happen. You know, when I promoted to lieutenant or captain was a goal in and of itself. That's all the further some people wanted to go. And you could tell the people were doing that because they were great captains, they were great lieutenants. But you could also tell those who were using it as another step on their career ladder. And not only did they step on the career ladder, but they also stepped on the backs of others. And yeah, some of them made it up high, some of them made it to warden, some of them made it to police chiefs. But the problem with management is people always say they forget where they came from. I think that's true in a lot of situations. You know, I look at the different wardens I worked for. The best warden I worked for was a woman. I'm not going to use last names, but her first name was Mary Ann. Mary Ann had come up through the probation and parole system. She'd worked her way from a basic street agent all the way up to the supervisor of the State Department of Probation and Parole. And she was the first warden I worked for when I became a lieutenant. Mary Ann was the type of warden who about once a month would make it a point to work each shift. That meant that she would come in and she would spend hours working a second shift. She would come in and spend some hours working a third shift. And she knew the people that she was working with and the people that were working under her direction. I can honestly say that in the 36 years I spent in corrections, there are wardens that I never saw out back in the facility. And if you did see them, it was on one of those feel-good days where they were giving staff free popcorn or free pizza or doing something to try to raise morale, which really amounted to diddly squat. But you didn't see them because they were insulated from it. They were in their office, which brings me to the biggest problem with upper management in particular. Upper management gets the job, and it's a 5-day-a-week job. And they sit in their office 5 days a week, and they dictate policies, they dictate procedures. And yeah, maybe at one time they had been there, but for many of them, they had been there simply because it was a step on their career ladder, and they were working their way up that ladder, and they needed to do that in order to get where they are. And once they got where they are, they forgot where they'd been. Now, as a captain, I never forgot where I'd been. My problem as a captain is sometimes I forgot where I was. And where I was a situation where I had to follow management policies and procedures rather than the common sense procedures dictated by being an officer. But that's one of the problems with management, is they often forget the simple problems that affect their staff on a daily basis. Now, I've seen this happen in sheriff's departments. I've seen it happen in police departments. I've seen it happen in prisons. You know, when I look at Mary Ann, and she was a great warden. I truly enjoyed working for her. But there are some wardens who you just had to sit back and shake your head. One, for example, started out as a maintenance man, never had a day's experience in security. It's a warden at a maximum security institution. Another warden that I worked for started out as a cook, and as a warden, they were a good cook, but it was who they knew. That didn't mean they were effective as a warden. It just meant that they were in that position. Now, did people respect them? Not necessarily. Not that everything that they did was bad, but along with being a warden or a police chief or a sheriff, there has to be respect. People have to know that you know how to do the job. Now, how can a cook ever hope to understand what a sergeant in a maximum security cell block really does. They may understand the policies and procedures, they may understand how to do it by the book, but they don't know how to do it in reality. And another reality I'd like to speak of is academy instructors. In Wisconsin, we have a corrections training academy, and we have some good instructors there. But the majority of the instructors we have there are so far removed from the institution and haven't worked in an institution in so long that I feel that they too lose trust of what's really happening in the institution. It was my feeling for years, back when I was a union vice president, back when I was a chief steward, back when, way back in the day, I spent half my career working the line, and I've spent half my career in management as a lieutenant and captain. But it was my feeling along the line that every upper management person, warden, deputy warden, security director, should be made to spend at least 1 week out of their year working on the line in their institution. Same thing with persons at the training academy. Instead of having this job at the training academy where you're insulated from the reality of everything, get out there and go into the institutions, work in the institutions, learn the policies and procedures. Don't depend on things that you knew from 30 years ago. If I look back on the way things were when I started, things have changed dramatically and drastically, and they should. Some of the changes are for the better. Some of the changes are just changes for the sake of change. And some of them, it's just that old rabbit going around and always coming back to the hole. It's a circle. I mentioned in past. When I started, we referred to inmates as residents. Then we referred to them as inmates. Now they're referring to them as, I think it's persons in our care or persons in our custody. Well, it all goes around, but it all comes down to upper management really knowing the people that work for them, knowing the jobs of the people that work for them, and knowing how to do the jobs of the people that work for them. So if you're in upper management, you might not like what I'm saying, but maybe it's time you get out of your office and you go out and you interact with your staff. And don't interact with them as the warden. Don't interact with them as the police chief. Interact with them as a fellow officer and see what they really think. See what's important to them. See what they need. Till next time, this is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. Stay safe and watch your back.